Today we are making a video on Ubuntu Studio, which is a flavor of Ubuntu. This version is 23.04, which is Lunar Lobster. As you can see, there is a boot menu here. This is a live boot and this is a Ubuntu Studio Safe Graphics, OEM install for manufacturers and test memory. In order to boot in a live mode, let's try or install Ubuntu Studio and try to ignore the background noise because construction is going on around my house, beside my house, and some other people's also talking here, so ignore that sound. I'm running it on a virtualization, which is a VMware with 80 GB of hard disk, 4 GB of RAM and 2 processors. So this is a Ubuntu Studio 23.04 Lunar Lobster version. So I already made a lot of Ubuntu flavors of 23.04 edition. If you want, you can check that out in my channel. So again, it's going to take like 1 minute or 30 to 40 seconds maximum, because that's the usual time which every Linux distro takes. And sometimes the Linux distros with heavy weight or heavy resources consuming Linux distros will take a lot of time, like a minimum or maximum up to like 1 minute 30 seconds to 2 minutes, like that. So if it's a good Linux distro, it's going to take 30 to 40 seconds. So this is a Ubuntu Studio, and it has a desktop environment of a KDE Plasma. The latest version of a KDE Plasma is 5.27.4. Let's hope we get that version in it, because this is a Ubuntu Studio latest version, so we should be having our desktop environment also in a latest version. As you can see, here is a mouse pointer. I think it almost about to boot up or show up the desktop layout, I guess. We can see a mouse pointer which works and looks smooth. So again, it's a stable version. If you want to try it, it's always better option, or a tip from me. It's you need to boot it in a live boot first, because it's a pro tip from me. Because if you had a bugs, it should be okay if you are running on a live boot. If you install directly without testing anything, so you should be having some issues or bugs like that, so it will be a torture for you. So I don't want you to ruin your PC. So that's the reason I'm asking, or I'm saying, or whatever you think, it's a tip or a suggestion. Always boot it in a live boot, because it will be safe. After you're satisfied for hours, use it for hours. Don't just use it for 10 minutes like that. Always use it for hours, and more than 7 to 8 hours or 1 day. And don't save anything in a live boot, because it's going to be deleted after you reboot or remove that live boot. So use it for 7 to 8 hours properly, whatever the Linux distro is, whether it is a stable version, beta version, whatever it is. If you are using a beta version or a alpha version or a pre-release, never install it. If you're using a stable version, just use like a 7 to 8 hours like a live boot, and then go with the installation after you're satisfied without any bugs. So that's the tip or a suggestion from me. So let's first change the display resolution. I'm running it on a VMware, so it's going to it didn't change the display resolution. Usually it changes, but I don't know why. So let's right click on display settings, or you can directly go to the app menu and go to settings, and then display settings. You can change there. So let me change the display resolution to 1920 into 1080, which is my monitor size, with a 16:9 ratio. Click on apply. It takes few seconds and it asks for confirmation again. Keep it. So if you can't see the text or font size after choosing 1920 into 1080 resolution, you need to choose like a 120% to 150%, because that's the best settings for the 1920 into 1080. You should be having a bold text and a bold fonts. The fonts should be a bit bigger, and the text will be also a bit bigger. So let's close this thing. Let's first open the system monitor, because we need to know how much resources are consuming before, and I'm going to show it again at the end of the video. Again, I'm going to launch the system monitor, so you will be having an idea of how much resources will be consuming. And try to ignore the background noise, because my construction is going around my house, and some people and kids are also playing, so try to ignore that. Sorry for the inconvenience. So this is the RAM right now. It's almost a 1.7 GB. If you ask me, it's not for a 2 GB of RAM, because Ubuntu Studio is having a lot of apps or pre-installed apps, there is this Linux distro is also recommended for the audio production or video production like that, people. So if you want to test it, you can test it. If you're having a 2 GB of RAM, it will be probably a bad idea to use that Linux distro because it's almost a 1.7 GB. If you have a 2 GB RAM, it will be like a 1.8 GB, and it's almost 1.7 GB. So even if you try to open anything, it's going to take ages and it will be torture for you. So it's better option you don't go with this Linux distro. There are Ubuntu and Ubuntu. If you want to try to Ubuntu flavors, you can try both of them. They're lightweight. So let's go to the resources, and the RAM is 1.7 GB and the CPU is almost at 25%, under 25%, and swap is nothing, 0 hard disk, as you can see. And these are some networks, you don't need to worry about the networks. And the host name is Ubuntu Studio. KDE Plasma version is a 5.27.4, which is the latest version, and Qt version is a 5.15.8. and operating system is Ubuntu 23.04. KDE Frameworks version is a 5.104.0. The latest version of KDE Frameworks is a 5.105, and the latest kernel version is a 6.3. So we don't see a kernel version, but I will show you every distro information in a few seconds or a few minutes. Here are the applications running right now. And here is the history of a CPU and RAM. Just ignore the network because it will be different for every person. So the main thing is to be looking is the RAM and the CPU, because these are the important things you need to understand and see. So it's almost 1.7 GB and the CPU is under 25%. If you want to remember this thing or write it down, if you want to do that, you can do that, or you can put the video side by side. After I am going to show you the system monitor again at the end. So you will be exactly having the numbers. So that's up to you to write it down or remember, or just put the video side by side of my Ubuntu 23.04 Studio version. So these are the processes running right now. It's taking a few seconds. Let's wait. These are all the processes running right now. As you can see, there's a bit of delay in the scrolling. No problem, happens sometimes. So the version should be of the system monitor is a 5.27.4 because the latest version is the same thing. And these are some of the info. If you want to go through all this, you can go through those. And let's open the terminal because we want to grab every distro info. I promise that I will going to show the complete distro info. So let's check the version of the console, which should be 22.12.3. This is the common number you will see in every KDE desktop environment. And the apps or the software which comes with the KDE Plasma desktop environment will be having this version, so no need to check that version. So let's try to change the color. If we have the preference here, we don't have preference here to change the theme. It's okay. Let's try to look it like this. Let's type in inxi-sv8. This is the command which will grab every distro info, almost everything. inxi is not installed, so let's try to install the sudo apt install inxi. Let's hope it works. I think it's going to take a few seconds to completely install the packages. You need to type in Y for yes and N for no to install. I'm going to type Y. So we should be having our inxi installed in a few seconds or maybe a minute. It should be taking a minute. Instead of waiting for this, we need to let's check out other things. Let's see if it completes in 100%. I guess it completed. So let's go to these things. Let's type in, instead of here, let me take another tab or another window. Let's close this thing. Let's open the new words tab. Let's type in inxi-sv8, which will grab every distro info. So here is our all the information. Let me go through all these things. Try to ignore my mouse scrolling and keyboard also, because the Yeti microphone always captures everything, even if you edit also. So the host is Ubuntu Studio. A kernel version is 6.2.0-1003. The latest version of kernel is a 6.3. It was released today, so I will be giving the information in a community page of YouTube. So architecture is a 64-bit, compiler is not available, and the desktop environment is a KDE Plasma 5.27.4. TKQT version is a 5.15.8, which I already mentioned and showed you. So the distro is a Ubuntu 23.04 Lunar Lobster. Because it's a flavor of Ubuntu Studio is a flavor of Ubuntu, so it's going to say this distro name like Ubuntu 23.04 Lunar Lobster. And on the machine it's running on a VMware, so it's going to mention it as a VMware. And the RAM memory like 1.82 GB is consumed under 4 GB or of 4 GB. And this is my CPU. If you want to go through all the things, you can go through here. Let me scroll down and find other info like graphics. VMWGFX version is a 2.20.0, and let's scroll it again. Display is X11, server is Xorg, V version 1.21.1.7, with the Wayland version is a 22.1.8. So let's scroll it down again. So screen or monitor, these are the available resolutions or available display settings for this distro. And API OpenGL version is 4.1, Mesa is 23.0.2. So let's scroll it again. A Jack version is 1.9.21 and PipeWire version is 0.3.65. So let's scroll it down again. So let's find another information. Let's scroll it again. And the INXI version is 3.3.25 and the Shell Bash version is a 5.2.15 and GCC is 12.2.0. Processors running right now are 246 and uptime is 9 minutes. Wake-ups is 47. Init systemd version is 252. Let me type in another command or the same command like this thing, but it comes in a smaller form or a short form. For example, like INXI. These are the same information but in a short form. Let me type in another command, which is INXI-G. Again, we should be having same information. Let's type in INXI-small b. Click on enter. The same information. Phoenix version is 6.0. So we have every information. Let's type in cat:/etc/issue and hit enter. And it's a Ubuntu 23.04 version. So let's type in neofetch. Let's hope neofetch is installed. Neofetch is not installed. If you want to install, just type in sudo apt install neofetch. We already got every information of the distro, so we don't need to type in neofetch. If you want, you can try it. Let me type in htop. Htop is also not pre-installed. Let me try to install it by sudo apt install htop. Copy it, paste it, and hit enter. It's going to take a maximum of 12 seconds and we should be having our htop installed. Let me even show you the neofetch also. I don't want to leave it again. So sudo apt install neofetch. Some people want to know the neofetch, so let's do that also. Click on Y for yes and N for no. I want to install, so I type Y. So it's going to take a few seconds because neofetch takes some time to install. We should be having our neofetch in any second. It's almost a 98% and neofetch is installed. So let me show you neofetch. So here is a neofetch. Operating system is a Ubuntu and these are the theme icons. Every information is almost completely shown to you. So let me type in htop because we installed htop. We want to see a htop. And the RAM is here, CPUs are upside, tasks are here. So we think we covered everything almost in the distro information. So let's close this thing and let me show you the official website by launching the Firefox web browser. And let's go to their official website and download the Ubuntu Studio 23.04. This is just a tutorial for people who want to download. So people always ask me to provide the link. I can't provide the links because sometimes YouTube thinks it's phishing sites. So some ISO should be some like a phishing site. So it's better to show you how to download the ISO file instead of giving the link. Even even if I give the link, people are going to ask me again how to download. So it's better to show directly how to download and how the file size, how much is the file size. So this is a Ubuntu Studio. So let's type in Ubuntu Studio as the search term and just type in 23.04. It is available right here. So let's type in Ubuntu Studio 23.04. Here is a release note. Let me first check the version of the Ubuntu Firefox, which is 111.0.1. The latest version of Firefox is 1112. So this is a release note. If some people want to know what are the new things happened in the latest version, here are some of the information. Here is also how to upgrade, and if you want to upgrade, you can type in all these commands. And this is not the 23.04, this is just the 23.04. so these are the information and upgrading things. If you want to download a disk image, you can download here. So boot images for standard PC and bootable images for standard PC and laptops. So you need to see this, the Ubuntu Studio 23.04 Lunar Lobster. You should always remember or check this thing and download the ISO file. Whatever the flavor it is or whatever the Linux distro, always check the name and download the file. Don't just blindly download anything. So this is the download link and this is the URL. If you want to type in the URL, this is the URL. Or you can directly type in the Ubuntu Studio 23.04 download. That's also is okay. I already made a beta version too, so if you want to check anything, you can check there. So the ISO file image file size is almost of 5.3 GB because it has a lot of pre-installed apps for the video production, audio production, all these things. So if you want to download, it is here. So the file size is around 5.3 GB and it is only available in a 64-bit. It's not available in a 32-bit. So remember that also. As you can see, I'm using a VPN, so my download speeds are slow right now. So let me close this thing. And I showed everything of the release notes and how to download these things. So let's close this thing and let's go to the installation process. I'm going to show you how to install the Ubuntu Studio 23.04. I'm just going to show you the process of installation. I'm not going to install because I don't want to. So first you need to choose your language. For me, I'm going to choose American language or American English. And the Calamares installer should be 3.3.0 Alpha 2 version for the Ubuntu Studio. First I choose the language. You can choose your favorite language. There are plenty of languages available right now. Click on next and here is a location. You don't need to provide your actual location, you can choose any location. Here is a drop down menu. If you want to choose from here, you can choose it or directly pin it on the map. I'm choosing Los Angeles, America as my location. Here is some customization. If you want to customize, you can customize that too. So click on next. Here is a keyboard model. I'm using a Dell wireless keyboard and a mouse, so it's automatically going to give me as a generic 105 key PC. It always shows like this and it always works for me, so I'm going to keep it like that. Choose your languages. I'm choosing English United States default. You can test it here if you want. So click on next. Here is the main step or the important step, and be careful while choosing this, and you should be having an idea of what you're doing here. And first you need to choose your hard disk to install. I'm using a VMware, so it says VMware with 80 GB of hard disk. I kept 80 GB of hard disk for my VMware. So if you want to boot it in a single boot and delete the current operating system, it's going to you need to choose erase disk. It's going to delete everything like a media files, operating system, everything clearly, and try to install the Ubuntu Studio. It tries to install Ubuntu Studio. So these are some of the options. If you choose manual partitioning, this is to boot like a dual boot options. You need to create a partition before and you need to choose that option. So be careful while doing this thing. You need to be having an idea of what you're doing here. So if you want to encrypt the system, you can encrypt the system by providing the password, which in a same password in 2 boxes. So it will be encrypted. So that's the thing. And this is a bootloader location. You need to compulsory install a bootloader. So if you want to install directly from here, you can choose the master boot system partition, or you can install the bootloader later if you want. Do not install a bootloader right now, and if you can install it later, you can install it. It's clearly up to you. It's clearly customizable for you. So after this, click on next. I'm going to choose all these things, and you need to provide your credentials like a username, password. You don't need to provide the actual username and password. You can provide anything, and always remember the password. Just don't blindly type anything and ignore these things, because you need to provide the password again after the installation. So be careful, and if you want to write it down, you can write it down. It's a better idea instead of struggling for the password to remember. So let's go with the username, which is I'm going to choose a random name. So I'm going to choose runboxing. If everything is perfect, so you need to see that check marks. It will be like all tick to right or a correct like this. So if it is wrong, it's going to be like a into or X mark or incorrect. So I'm choosing a simple password for the sake of the video. I don't want to give the strong password. So as you can see, if it's wrong, it's going to show like this. If everything is good, it's going to show you the correct or a tick mark. I'm going to choose a simple password, which is a 12345. So this is the password. Don't provide the password like this. You need to provide the strong password, and always write down the password. It's a better idea. So that's it. So click on next, and here is the summary of what you chose in the previous steps. For like example, I choose the America Los Angeles as a location, America English as the keyboard and the language. Keyboard is here. Partitions is I choose the partition as the erase disk, and I choose like a single boot. And this is my hard disk, is going to show 80 GB. And this is the things going to happen after you click on install. So these are all the things will be happening after you clicking on install. After you clicking on install, it's going to take a maximum of 20 minutes or minimum like 5 to 10 minutes like that. So if your PC is fast and the Linux distro is also stable, so it's going to complete it very soon. You can't even say how much time it took. It depends on completely on the distro and the PC. So I'm not going to perfectly or correctly say the timings. So after the installation, it's going to say finish and reboot. You need to reboot your system. If you choose the erase disk, it's going to boot it in a single boot. If you choose the manual partitioning, it's going to give you an option of 2 operating systems like a dual boot. You need to click on dual boot option like a dual operating systems. If you choose Windows and Linux, you will be having an option Windows and Linux. You can choose there. So that's the process of installation. So again, I'm going to mention it that after you satisfied with the live boot, after using for 78 hours, it's better to go with installation if you didn't find any bugs. So if you still found any bugs, so it's better the option to wait for a few days. Maybe if they had bugs, they are going to be releasing updates or a point update like that. So if you are satisfied, then go with the installation, and if you don't satisfied, just remove the live boot. I'm saying this again and again because I don't want you to ruin your PC. So that's the main point here. So let's exit the installation process, and let's check out the desktop features which are here: the calendar and time, internet connections, device and disks, volume rockers or volume options, keyboard. I think this is a clipboard. This is a desktop, and let's check the desktop wallpapers. What are the new wallpapers available? This is a lunar lobster wallpaper. As you can see, it's a lobster and a moon. So let's maximize this thing. There is just a few wallpapers, nothing more than that. So if you want to add wallpapers, you can add it. And these are some of the options. Let's go through or run through fast. About the version is a folder 3.0. So let's close this thing. I think we covered everything. Just let's check the pre-installed apps which comes with the Ubuntu Studio 23.04 and end the video. Let's try to resize this thing. It is not possible, so it's okay. So these are all the pre-installed apps which comes with the Ubuntu Studio 23.04. There are plenty of apps. I can't open every app. It's going to take ages. So these are all the pre-installed apps. If you want to go through all this in own, you need to download the ISO file and go through all these things. So these are all the available or the pre-installed apps which comes with Ubuntu Studio. So let's go with the audio production. These are all the from the audio production. And on the graphics design, there are plenty of. This is just for the people who work on the graphics design, audio production, video production, like that. So this is the best Linux distro for the people who work on that. So on the office side, these are all the apps: science and math, settings, and on the system, and on the utilities, Ubuntu Studio information. These are some of the information from the Ubuntu Studio, and help. That's it. So let's see what is left is we showed the installer. So let's open the discover, and let me show you the version of the some of the important apps. Instead of opening every app, I'm going to show you in the what you call it, software manager. So these are the installed versions, as you can see. Settings, you can customize these things. About and fetching updates, there is no updates available, so it's going to just let's close this thing. Let's open just a few apps, like important apps, like a file manager and some LibreOffice and a mail client. That's it, just the important and regularly used apps. This is the version. Let's open the system and see what is left here. A package manager. Let me show you the package manager also. About KDE, not about KDE, about Moan package manager. The version is 5.8.0. The installed package will be saying installed and be highlighted in a green color. Let me quickly scroll this thing. If you want to change the speed, you can change it in a YouTube setting, which is playback speed to 0.25. It should be easy to see like this. Installed version is here, so also installed packages will be here. So let me quickly run through this thing. If you want to slow it down, you can slow it down in the YouTube settings in the playback speed. Change the speed from 1 to 0.25 and you should be seeing the installed apps or the installed packages. So let me close this thing and open the email client. The email client for the Ubuntu Studio is a Thunderbird, and also almost every Linux distro has the Ubuntu, not the Ubuntu, it is a Thunderbird. So let's check the version. We should be 102, I guess, because that's the version is 102.10.0. So this is the version of a Thunderbird. What else we left here is on the internet we saw everything. Media playback. Let's go open the PLC media player, because that's also the widely used software. LibreOffice also, because people want to see that too. Science and math, system. I think we covered everything. So let's see these versions and open the system monitor and end the video. That's it. So the version is I think it should be like a 7.5.2.2, because we made a lot of videos on Ubuntu flavors of our Ubuntu 23.04. Every Ubuntu flavor and Ubuntu has the same versions, so this is also the same version. And the version of VLC will be 3.0, like that, 3.0.18. So let me close this thing and let me open the system monitor. So you've been waiting for the resources to see. You need to put the video side by side of the same video, put the same side by side, and you should be having the resources consumed exact numbers. Before it was like a 1.7 GB, right now it's a 2.3 GB. After opening and running through all the some of the settings and some of the features. So these are the resources right now. Almost 500 MB is more right now. Applications, history, process. It's going to take a few seconds. So I think that's it for the video. I'll be posting 2 videos daily without missing any day. So if you want to check that out you can check that out after watching this video. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. It helps make a good content for you. Other than that, I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace out.